So once again, we're back with the Passing Show, live with Hal Gill, your host here on Harrowings, which is my Substack. And I love this medium. I love the tools we have here. We'll have others. I'm right now taking in a crow on the top of the chimney. It's closest to me of the house across the way that's up for sale. A few $1,000,000. It can be yours. 16,000 square feet. Neo-Georgian mansion. Now, this situation we have here is that a crow is sitting there. There are others of his brethren about. There's one on the top of the building away, and there's another on a lamppost there. And the crows are the observers of us humans, smart as whips. And their brethren, the ravens, also similarly smart. I do love the crows, and I hope they love me. I understand if you're kind to crows, they will bring you shiny objects. And some people have befriended crows. Crows can hold a grudge for years against a particular human being. I hope they're not holding a grudge against me, flapping darkly down. Ah. Now that reminds me of Nick Cave's tune. He's playing this carnivalesque thing about the circus and the background of Wings of Desire, in which the trapeze artist attracts the attention of an angel to the extent that the angel decides to descend and become human. The follow-up, Far Away So Close, quite a different flavor. Still a really wonderful film. And Otto Sander, Bruno Ganz, both now departed from the scene. Were in that film as angels. The Wings of Desire, Himmel über Berlin, Berlin, London, Belfast, and Berlin goes the song Stay by U2, which was in Far Away So Close. In fact, the lyric Far Away So Close is there as well. And the idea of him had was that the angels are here, unseen, listening in on our thoughts, recording everything, saying, yeah, amen, always yes, and never really being able to mitmachen, to participate, just observing, just watching as an account of primeval times and that moment in which humans arose. And yeah, how they've been observing our struggles. It's another scene in which an old actor, one of his last roles, ends up playing Homer, the embodiment of the storyteller, Homer. Anyway, Ben Benders, what a genius. Beautiful film. Amazing soundtrack. Yeah. I remember playing it for my friend Harry, who's deceased now. He's died at about a year older than I am now of a heart attack, it said. Some other folks thought maybe he made his own exit. I don't know the truth, and I don't think any of us ever will. For those who do know it, we'll keep it close to the vest. He was living at the time with a woman, I think, who's still part of my circles. And she ran classic video. She moved it from Craig Street, ill-advisedly perhaps, and it didn't do as well where it went. But she was selling used and renting great films. She had quite a curated collection. Right next to Caliban's bookstore when I was there in Pittsburgh. It's a wonderful experience. It's like they're cleaning up at Seta Osteria. It's a convenience store across the way. It used to be a 7-Eleven. It used to be a Five Guys when we first moved into the neighborhood over 15 years ago. So if you're with us on Passing Show, yesterday we did a segment of the Harrowings podcast with Jay Venner. I hope you'll catch it. It was great. I loved it. And she's apparently willing to do it again, have another conversation next week. So I'm really moved, pleased, humbled, just full of gratitude, really. It's the word. We're going to look at the setup of the market, DuPont Circle Market. It's early, so you don't have a lot going on, but I see Atwater's pop up is going up. Quaker Valley Orchard pop up going up. And we're going to take that in that part of the passing show and just keep on walking. Don't know how far I'm going to walk today. I need to do more of this. I need to get up early, get out. Not getting as much sleep as I probably ought to. And I'm writing. I'm writing about my experiences coming up and how a medical, you know, community does the best it can, I think, under the circumstances, but they are a bit beholden to the pharmaceutical companies. And we've got this insurance company situation now that's not what it ought to be. Yep. Quaker Valley, Biglerville, PA. This guy's had quite the drive, I expect, this morning coming down. Provide us with the orchards. I thought it was Atwater. Well, I guess Atwater's not even here yet. These guys are from Biglerville, PA. We should go up there and check out Quaker Valley Orchards and Guest House. It's got a guest house. Hey, how about that? Yeah. Live large, for tomorrow we die. Smith Meadows from Berryville, Virginia is set up. They got beef and pork, lamb, probably chicken as well. I don't know what all. Not going that close to read their menu, but I can see those headers. Beef, pork, and lamb. We were talking a little bit about it, fish, and not wanting a fish to die, just so we could eat. Yesterday with Jay Benner. And I don't want pigs or cows or sheep to die either that I might feed on their flesh. Psychic. But I am not averse to eating these things now. I'm not a vegetarian. Maybe I ought to be. Maybe I ought to even be vegan and eat only organic. Be the change you want to see in the world. If everyone did that, the world would change. But will it? Do we have to eat meat? As a hunter-gatherer from way back, an omnivore, I think maybe we do need empanadas setting up here. It's very early. And again, pop-ups coming out. Folks walking around. It's going to be a huge amount of different vendors out here. There always is. Always are. Get my grammar right. It's not like I have poor breeding. I can't imagine having kids these days, but I don't. I send a kid to camp every year. Scholarship fund I provide to Camp Winter Rainbow. Support them in various ways, and they entertain me and support me in various ways. We're all interwoven into each other's lives. We have a lot to give each other, and on it goes. Pass it on, pass it forward. Looks like we're going to have a problem with this area here because there usually are vendors who set up in here, but they can't now. I guess they'll have to set up elsewhere. All these barriers. It's what it is. I'll probably set you guys down at some point because I need to hike my wrists up. I'm going to lose balance there. See what's happening. Lock this off. Okay, that's good. Get ready to set up all the pop-ups. I learn a lot just by looking around. Well, sort of aping Yogi Berra, I think it says you can learn a whole lot just by watching. Or you can observe a lot just by looking. Something like that. Most of the things I said, I never said. Said Yogi Berra. Woody. Probably was thinking of Woody Harrelson for a moment. I had a good Woody story. Right. It's not my story. Patti Smith's story. You can look it up. about him showing up with Michael Stipe, I think, at her house one time, and some interaction they had. Patty shared with us online some years ago. We're at DuPont Circle. This is a hub of activity here in DC. A lot of things happen. A lot of people come and go. Right now, it looks like it's just one of us and another. Me? Oh, yeah, there are a couple people. There's somebody on a bench over there. Cup. Yeah, my friend Andrew polices this area, picks up trash. He's in Berlin, I believe. He's an NPR music consultant, works hospice. There are all kinds of possible paths to go in. So many opportunities for service to others. And he's a good representative of that in some ways. I've been talking to myself a good bit about leaving, quote, the fellowship. And but I don't mean that I'm going anywhere. And I know it's not necessary to announce one's departure. This is not an airport. But yesterday I held forth from my little bully pulpit down there at 1623 Connecticut Avenue. And I made it my swan song for now. I want to back off from being in meetings of the 12-step fellowship. I'm still, as far as I'm concerned, a group member, but I don't want groupthink. Ideally, folks who are involved in some form of 12-step program for whatever their ailment is are admonished on 12, which can be practiced at any point along the way, to practice principles in all our affairs. Well, what does that mean? Wow, what does that mean? Look at all the things coming up here for entertainment. IMP, impconcerts.com. It couldn't be more like in my face because I think of myself as an imp. I'm going to change the subject now from 12-step fellowship to who I am. I think of myself as an imp. If you don't know what an imp is, well, there's a Wikipedia definition of imp out there. Or bother stopping to read it now. This little mischievous spirit. Benevolent, malevolent, who's to say? Right? Who's to judge? But I inhabit the animal that carries me around. That animal bears a label given to it shortly after 3:21 in the morning, February 4th, 1963, of Harold Bledsoe Gill III. If my mother hadn't been knocked out for the birth, I might have been Harold Jonathan Gill, but she didn't get a say in that. She used to call me Johnny because she liked the name. Maybe I'll actually start being Johnny. Haven't been anything but Hal for a while. Now, I was very disappointed in 1968, 69, I forget exactly when it was. I have to look that up. When 2001, The Space Odyssey came out. I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave. My 12-step sponsor, as it were, is named Dave, and I never once used that. I should have. But, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Opportunity lost. And what happened with Hal, of course, is they pull his cards after Dave gets back into Discovery somehow, the spaceship out there on its way to Jupiter. Dave completes the mission, sure enough. And in 2010, the year we made contact, it all comes to a head with the firing up of Lucifer. Is that what they call it? Anyway, a second star in our solar system. And Jupiter sort of collapses in on itself and then sparks to become a star. I don't know, man. I do not know. Isn't Lucifer, is it? What do they call that? What do they call that new star in 2010, the year we make contact? Arthur C. Clarke also wrote 3001, I think. And I had to look that up. Our futurists, like Arthur C. Clarke, who really was the inventor of the telecommunications satellite, these guys really transformed the world and in fundamental ways. A lot of you may not know that Jeff Skunk Baxter, for example, guitarist of the Doobie Brothers, Steely Dan, pretty good session guy, actually put out his own album called Speed of Heat about, well, among other things, the way the SR-71 used to get up to speed of heat. And read all about that or listen all about that, see all about that in Space Cowboys. There's a little thing with Tommy Lee Jones where he talks about how it tightens up. Links like a sieve when it's on the ground, but man, when it gets up there flying hot and fast, it tightens up and poof, she runs. She doesn't, not designed for sitting on the ground. Just sitting there, it looks like it's going fast. Okay, I'm on N Street. I'm going to bear off, take y'all on a little tour. My history. We've already walked by DuPont Circle, and nearby there's a place that used to be Bedazzled. My wife was running her side hustle. It was a little jewelry making gig called Hanging by a Thread. Just love that. Anyhow, we've got married at the Tabard Inn, so we're heading down that way. Been talking about futurism, telecommunications, our ability to get at the speed of light, connect to each other. Doing that right now over the microwave system. Hedy Lamarr was apparently responsible for that. Is that right? I think so. I think she was the one who helped develop wireless packet switching, things like that. So good to have 6 of you along for the ride. I don't know how many are watching. Give me a comment if you are. I all know you're around. You guys are up early. Like me. And the humidity. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better, as David Gantz says. Okay, one thing after the other. So we're walking, observing, coming up on the Tabard Inn. So let's cross. Shall we? Much longer I want to go. I could go down to that circle, though. Maybe make a loop around it. Head up to Logan Circle. Might be fun. Looks like somebody was sitting on a porch there. Yep. Yep. Ah, yes. Scene of the crime. So May 3rd, 2008, came up on this building, went in, back in a little cubby hole called the Elephant Room. Maybe the window of it there. I waited out with the Reverend Jim Jardine Sorelli, prayed with me. Situation. No audio or video recording without express permission. Makes sense. Stop doing that soon, but I want to see the menu. Brunch. Starters include Tabard donuts, $2 each. Note scone for $4. Gazpacho. Greek yogurt. Looks good, actually. Someday, maybe. Lunch, dinner. What's dinner? Buffet steak. Chicken fricassee, bone-in, pork chop grill, ribeye. Not bad. Gazpacho. Great tomatoes, $12. Can you imagine? I hope they make a good profit. Across the way, there's the Iron Gate. There's a historical marker over there, some form or other. I'm going to take a look at that. So after the wedding, my poor wife, strapped in tight as she was in the wedding gown she had found, we came over here and joined my cousins with my parents, my sister a little bit. General Federation of Women's Clubs. That's what this is. Under the motto Unity and Diversity, GFWC's local member clubs in the USA and around the world have built an outstanding record of philanthropy, social and political advocacy, and community labor leadership. It was chartered by the 56th Congress in 1901, and since 1922, 1734, in the street Northwest has served as headquarters. There you go. Federation of Women's Club. And that was significance and commemorating the history of the United States of America. And there's the Iron Gate menu. The first is weekend brunch. What time are they open? It looks like it's not open yet. What time is it now? 6:35. Anyway, yeah, beetroot salad, 2 olive oil fried eggs, Asian Farms lamb hamburger. So 2 course. And they get extras of eggs your way. Yeah. Then a bittersweet chocolate budino, shortbread crumble, chantilly cream, our cheesecake, cardamom, granola, chocolate mint, and stone fruit variations. That sounds good, man. Iron Gate, 1734. In the street Northwest, and onwards we go. I'm very lucky to live here. I just careened into it. I say I have more of a careen than a career. In other words, like an out of control car on a highway. Think North by Northwest. The film with Cary Grant, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, of a man who gets caught up in a whole web of CIA conspiracies. Oh my God. The CIA. What are they up to now? They so much feel that they have the power. Yeah, really interesting little buildings. This one's for sale. Boutique offices are being leased. 1714 to 16. So I guess those 2 buildings could be bought by somebody with money and power. Money is power. Money is energy. Power is energy. The energy that's running my legs right now, I bought and paid for. Every cent spent is a vote for the kind of world in which we find ourselves. So we've done this collectively, together. We've co-created the world we're experiencing. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to improve it? How are we going to be good ancestors, for our descendants? For our descendants will not curse our memories, but thank us for what we've done. How are we going to do that? I'm not asking rhetorical questions here. I mean it. I don't know how many of you are still with us. I'm really grateful that you all came by. Looks like there's 6 besides me. If you feel so moved, comment, talk to me. Baby man. I was singing People, I think, on my Sunny Triple live thing last Tuesday. Some of you liked it. I haven't actually listened. I listened to it, actually. I did. I about lied. Have a habit of doing that. But I found myself to be off key in the recording. So I got to improve. Like the first time I listened to me, Sunny listens to me, and she's very, very slow to criticize. She's giving me some exercises to do. We can go in all kinds of possible directions. If I just want to sing, she'll listen. And in a way, having a witness makes it so much better. It's kind of like my wife who witnesses me, sees me, hears me, reflects back to me. Hal, you sound arrogant. Yeah, do tell. My old girlfriend years ago, tell that story because I love that story. Oh, God. But should it really be told? Just put it behind the paywall, really. But suffice to say that Holly one time said that she thought I was arrogant when she met me. And when she met me, I was her professor. I was teaching German for reading knowledge. And she was a young woman's completing her master's degree in art history at the University Pittsburgh. Oh man, that was so nice, right? The time we started up, I was engaged to when I was teaching her to be married to a young woman from Ecuador. What had happened there, and I'll back up and tell that story because that's an interesting one to me, surprising to me actually. I was newly sober in the fellowship, and I had a sponsor, and I had a grand sponsor, and we were all over at my friend Donna Donnelly now, then Donna Berardi, and her she was Donna Bartle. So she's been different Donnas. Once upon a looking for Donna. Well, Donna was a good friend at the time, one of my best friends. And she had things that she called salons, right, at her house on Walnut Street. She had an apartment there. It was pretty nice. Passing show. The White House down there. Look at that. And Winfield Scott, I think, is Scott Circle. Um, yep. Anyway, so Donna's having this party. I'm about 7 months sober. So we're in 1998, sometime around March, probably. Things that tend to happen for me as the sap rises. Happen for me, not to me, on my 20th day of the 30-day mental diet. I don't know if that's a cheat. Mitch Horowitz could tell me, probably. I should ask him of using the formula. Everything that happens to me happens for me, such as a bad mood happens for me. It doesn't happen to me. Not the victim of my moods. Well, we're at this party. We're at this salon. People are dancing, having a good time. I'm not drinking. My sponsor's there. He's not drinking. My grand sponsor's there. He's not drinking. Frank and Frank. My friend Danny called them Old Frank and Young Frank, which I think when that came up, well, that's part of the story of Katya, the young lady from Ecuador. She was dancing at this party. Somebody else was too. And Donna said, as we were leaving, because we come early, come late, leave early. It's kind of the rule for people in sobriety who want to protect their sobriety. Well, um, the deal is, Donna says, "Hey, Hal, there's somebody here who's interested in you." As I was going out the door, I said, "Hey, well, give her my number." Wrote my number down on a piece of slip of paper, said, "Give it to her." She called me. She's interested. I went down the stairs, and I remember vividly. This is 1998, right? Spring of 88, 98. And I say to Frank, young Frank, "I could really use some ego deflation." He says, "I could use some ego inflation." We go on down. Just thinking about that. It's very flattering. Somebody's interested in me. That's not nice about that. uh, yeah, young Katya. She was getting her master's at the time in higher education administration. And she was lovely. She was bright. And I was curious. So, I didn't know. I was walking over to young Frank's place one night with a couple of films I got in a classic video. I was mentioning classic video earlier. And I stopped by because I called Donna, right? First, I called Donna. I said, "Hey, what can you tell me about this girl who was interested in me?" She said, "Well, her name's Katya. I don't know her last name. Don't know her real well. But she lives in the pink house over the dry cleaners on Walnut Street. So if any of you are Pittsburghers, you'll know this place if you're around Shady Side." And I went by there on my way with my two films from Classic Video, Love and Death and Dead Man. I was on a theme. And I was getting together with Michael and Annie, who were two also fairly new people, newer than me. And I had about 7 months at the time. And we were going to go watch them at Frank's. We did. But on my way, I passed dry cleaners, Pink House, where they're renting rooms. The three lower ones were rented by a guy from Bulgaria, a guy from Armenia, and a guy from somewhere else. I forget. It's not coming back to me. That's not unusual. A Bulgarian, an Armenian, and some other guy. Also a foreigner, I think. And Katya, being from Ecuador, had the private third floor room at the Pink House on Walnut Street. Forget the corner, but it'll come back to me. I'm going to be back there soon. I'll probably drive by and see it. Maybe take some photographs, throw them out there for you all to enjoy. Well, heck, next thing I know, I'm looking at the names there, and there's only the first initials. Two of them are K. I have to guess at the last names, right? But I take them all down. I'll go to the phone book after watching Love and Death and then Dead Man, the Jim Jarmusch film with Johnny Depp, with Michael and Nanny. So I'm curious and I'm kind of lonely, and it's nice to have somebody interested in you, right? Look at that sculpture. Not amazing. Big old tube of paint. And onwards. So I call up. I go to the phone book. This is before the days of like the Google internet thing. Well, maybe we had Google because I'd been an early adopter of Match.com, and that's how I found myself in the situation I was in. Back in the fellowship after 12 years away plus. And with the desperation and the willingness born of desperation, I call. I reach one of them, the Armenian guy, I think. I saw here in the neighborhood recently when I was working for federal student aid. Interesting encounter. He's far and away beyond where we were then. But we did have a little bit of interchange. Okay, what do I want to say? I reached one of these guys and I asked for Katya. And he said, well, Katya, she's away. She's down in Washington, D.C. at some conference, and she's coming back Sunday, but she'll be moving that day. Huh. So I said to myself, well, this is interesting. She's moving. I'll never meet her. That's great. That works just fine. This is God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself, keeping me out of a relationship the first year, which is highly recommended. It was only 7 months in, after all. It was following Monday, or maybe 2 weeks after that I ended up getting. How did it work? I was going down the elevator to go over to You Are Not Alone, my Don't Drink meeting at the Rodef Shalom Synagogue on 5th and Morwood Street. One of my home groups, as it were, the fellowship. And stepping onto the elevator as I'm stepping off in my building, the Wellington on Melwood Avenue, famous in song and story, is none other than Katya. Her eyes flash as I say hi. I usually don't speak to people stepping on the elevator, but I said hi. Eyes flash. She's dark. She looks like Catherine Zeta-Jones somewhat to me. It's time. Most people would say no, but rounder face. But she has that same dark beauty that Catherine Zeta-Jones has. And, and that's kind of a funny touch point to Michael Douglas, right? Anyway, her eyes flash as she says, hi, very animatedly. And I say, oh, here's God telling me something completely different. Shit, man, I might as well give it a shot. Here she is. I thought she was gone forever. Thought I'd never meet her. So I went to the mailboxes and noticed which apartment she had. The mailboxes there in the lobby of the Wellington. And I said, "Hmm, well, let's go ahead, see what happens here. I'm going to get her a card. It was Starry Night by Vincent Van Gogh, right? And I invited her to lunch. Sent her a card. Welcome to the building. If you like to grab lunch, it's just lunch. That idea. But before that could happen, use your logic circuits, man. I was working the desk at the conservation department right inside the lab doors, the chief across from the chief conservator's office. And I went and surfed up student listings at Pitt and found out, yes, she is a graduate student. I found her email address and said, okay, I'll send her an email too. And I did, invite to join me. And we met. Well, that was interesting. I told this story to my now wife back in 2007, May 3rd, 2007 to be precise. We were on a walking date in my neighborhood, a little further over from where I am now. I'm at Logan Circle. That's Logan up there on the horse. Anyhow, so I told this to Len as we were walking around after we had had our dinner at St. X's. Walked the neighborhood after I met her at Bedazzled. I've been bedazzled by Len ever since, by the way. Life of 17 plus years now. Okay. Len listens to my story and says, I think you were being stalked. And I flashed back in memory. I later learned that this young lady had first spotted me when I was at a party at my friend Gabi's place. Gabi is now over in Germany, but at the time she was a student at Pitt, like me, a teaching assistant in the department. I think she'd come out of the University of Augsburg. It was an exchange. And at Gabi's party, I'd been with the medical director of neuropsychiatry, the University of Pittsburgh's Medical Center, who I'd met through Match.com by the good offices of the same friend, who had rescued me when I nearly died of pneumonia in 96, and who was there for a lot of this hoo-ha that I'm describing. But let's go back and say it's 1998. Tati and I start up making music together. So I held her at arm's length for a while, just dating and not doing the things that dating people do when they're in their 20s and 30s. And she was like 27, something like that. Very protected childhood and young adulthood. And her home in Ecuador, Guayaquil, is where she was from. And her father was a dentist, and she'd been trained as a dentist herself, but didn't like it and got out of it and went over to being a higher education administration MA and then PhD. And she actually earned her PhD while we were together. I should have gone to see her pick up. I didn't. No, it was her master's. I guess it doesn't matter. She went on for the PhD, and yeah, she's doing well, I'm sure. I was not dateable material at this point in my life, but I tried. I did the best I could with what I had to be a good supporter. My year anniversary came along. We celebrated that, and we got engaged by the following February. And her mother came and stayed for 3 months in Katya's studio apartment, which pretty much limited our involvement with each other physically. However, it became apparent when she got an opportunity to move into another house with roommates that I could not be her roommate from her standpoint, which I found very hypocritical. And I could have used better economic support. So, I said, well, let's do a quick wedding and then we can go do the formal thing in Guayaquil with your family. And my father even got travel brochures for it. He was so convinced it was going to happen. But I blew it up. I blew it up because I felt I was being used. I felt there was a double standard, and I got lonely again. The thing is, the solution to what ails us, the healing we have to go through, because I was on the wake of a divorce in 1994. And I've been through some relationships already, as I mentioned. The healing we have to do has to be there first. Well, being a lonely guy as I was in 1999, I decided summer, I'd let Katya go. I decided to ask an ex student out. She's been bright, intelligent, and she accepted. And we went out, ended up shooting pool at the attic and eating at a Thai restaurant. Remember still, Lemongrass, I think it was called. And the result of all that was, what was the result? Was there a good result? I ended up with her in her place in Aspinwall. And we put waiting for my man. I'm just waiting for my man. $27 in my hand. This was a Lou Reed song about looking for a pusher to get him his heroin fix in New York City. I don't think actually Lou used heroin, but he did write about it beautifully and its effects. Waiting for my man. I saw a picture of Holly with her sister wearing a Velvet Underground t-shirt. I was realizing, yeah, that meant something. And so it did. And did it work? No. Why did I want to tell this story? I forget. But charming memory in many ways of what it was like back then in Pittsburgh. She's sort of the analog, if you watch Wonder Boys, the movie, to a character played by Katie Holmes in that film, who has a thing for Grady Tripp, the Michael Douglas character in the movie version of the novel. My friend Deborah thought she might have been, the name might have been taken from her and applied to the sort of cheeky sister of Michael Douglas's Emily, the Grady Tripp's Emily, I should say, who's a wife who leaves him or has just left. Beginning of the movie, whom we never see. We see her father, we see her mother. When they, Michael Douglas has Tobey Maguire slip through the doggy door, break in, and then they're in the house when the adults arrive, so to speak. The parents, apparently the father must have some medical training, the doctor or something. He bandages up Grady's wound in his leg, inflicted by Poe, Tobey Maguire, then shot. Sadly, killed the dog. The whole idea of a dead dog. I mean, this turns off a lot of people from that movie. And the novel probably as well. Poe really didn't deserve to take two in the chest, right? Anyway, what do I want to say about all that? Well, Katie Holmes' character is this young ingenue student who's not, very talented, already has stories in the Paris Review, and, she's compulsively clad in red cowboy boots. Well, I don't think that was part of Holly's stick, but her fascination for Warhol was. And one night, got together with friends over at the Warhol Museum. There's some kind of good stories in here. Let's tell this one little one. And I got back home and I couldn't reach. I'd gotten this bad performance review at work from my boss. I was upset about that. And, I wanted to bleed out, I guess, somehow or another. And we had gone to the Warhol for their Factory Fridays or whatever they called it at the time. This is, gosh, I don't know exactly, sometime like Octoberish of 19, no, yes, 1999. Right, yeah, it's been 1999, October. Factory Fridays. And we had met my ex, the doctor, who had helped get me into the fellowship by dumping me and saying, I never knew you had a problem, but I'll give you this. Whatever you do it. And I told her I was thinking about going to don't drink meetings and sobering up as the first order of business. Now that we were on the other side, got a police helicopter circling, something bad going down. Don't know what it is. They are circling. They're observing something. Or they're just observing. Never can tell. Anyway, let's get on with the story. So it's October, Factory Friday. I guess maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I left early. I don't remember why. I left Holly there. Holly ended up connecting with some other guys and ended up at their place, and some stuff went down. I got a call like 5 o'clock in the morning. Can you come pick me up? Or maybe it was 3. I forget exactly. Over on Walnut Street again. And I did. Drove her back to her flat where she confessed everything that she'd been up to, which wasn't strictly full infidelity, but pretty damn close. I remember telling my sponsor about this. And he said, "You know what that is, right? She may not be an alcoholic, but that's alcoholic behavior." She was acting out somehow. And I forgave her. Now, this must have been in February. Because February 14th, I think, I'd forgiven her. We were back together. Things were happening. Oh my God. The next thing I know, she's on spring break. I'm still working at the Carney, but I'm down in Williamsburg. I get a call and she's thinking of Jim on being with Daniel. She couldn't just disappear. She couldn't just ghost me. I'd been her best friend. She said, "But that's a funny way to treat a best friend, right? You should not sleep with your best friends." It screws it up. And the bottom line was I was out on my ear. I didn't know how it was going to shake out, but I was pretty sure that I had a problem and that I was not going to survive that if I wasn't careful. So I was careful. I was careful. All this time, since Katya's mother started staying with her, I gotten involved in 6degrees.com, probably in the fall of 1998 or 1999. No. Anyway, there was a conversation ongoing with one person I met through that over in Copenhagen, Denmark. One thing led to another. That person decided when we were both between relationships, Holly was gone, Katya's gone, that it's time for us to investigate whether or not we can be together. So she comes over. First, she invited me to join her in Bangkok. I did not do that. I said I'd come to Copenhagen. And she just said, "Well, okay, fine. I'll come and see you first." She had relatives over here in the States. If things went south, she could go there. She had a safety path. And this is the early days of the internet, so anything can happen. It's kind of like in 1966. They say anything you could think of would happen. Anyway, go back to this moment in the summer of 2000. Here comes Katya into my life. Oh, Maria. Katya's out of my life. Holly's out of my life. And there's Maria. Oh, wow. This is fantastic, right? I've got a reason to move to Denmark now. So I did. The relationship crashes and burns in a month and a half. And I'm out on my ear. And I'm in Danish winter. It's mizzling on December 1st, 2000. I'm sitting in a cafe on Jagtvej, looking out as I get a ham sandwich, having just flown over there to be with this woman. And she tells me, "I've been thinking a lot about empathy." Oh, not empathy. I've been thinking a lot about intimacy. I don't think she was very empathetic at that point. I just looked at her and I thought, she's holding a great big impaling steak. And I'm in free fall towards the point. And there's fuck all I can do about it. So I said, "Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Let's talk about intimacy." There's a long story there I won't even go into, but suffice to say, it ends rapidly after spending Christmas in Irish Coast, flying in one of those single engine sailplanes, part glider, part plane, powered glider, basically, with her father at the controls over Sunderjylland. You can see the whole of the area. That was Christmas Day, 2000. New Year's Eve, 2000 to 2001, the turn of the millennium. You think it was Y2K? No. It's 2000. Helicopter is really annoying me. Police helicopter circling, searching for something. I don't know what. But here we are at this native Egyptian guys, second generation Egyptian, Danish Egyptian, whatever. Um, we're at his house having the big blowout they do for New Year's Eve in Copenhagen. And wow, it was just fascinating, right? To live there and do that. It's nice. We had a good dinner. They had lots of soda. I drank a lot of soda. I did not enjoy it. Not really big cola drinker, but that's what they had. It was caffeinated. So I said, and all of Maria's friends were like, you know, 20 to 30 somethings, and they were pretty. I was dancing with them while she was talking to her ex boyfriend over in the dining room until finally our host had to go over and say, Maria, what's your name? I like you both very much, but Maria, you need to spend time with your boyfriend now. So we ended up dancing in the Millennium to Supernatural. Cool. What's that song? Santana's Supernatural is the album, and the Matchbox 20 guy, Rob Thomas, is doing that tune. Smooth. That's it. You got the kind of loving that can be so smooth. Give me a heart, make it real, or else forget about it. The thing with Maria was what we had physically together worked, but what we had intellectually together, she was a candidate for DARPA, not DARPA. What's that? Mensa. She was always priding herself in her copious intelligence, and she was. She is. I mean, very intelligent person. And she made the right choice. I made the choice for her. I was the one who pulled the plug, saying it's pretty obvious you don't really want this relationship. So, no harm, no foul. Let's just call it. And that was it. I never saw her again. Mid-January, I'm not sure exact date, but come back to me someday of 2001. I plunged myself into Danish winter and I worked my butt off in my company and we did well. I won the European Technical Publication Competition Award of Merit in 2002 for the online help and print documentation single source solution that my writer and I did with each other for our web software. First.net C# written web content management solution on the market. This did not work so well. Launched in alpha, and I said in my interview or writing, there's Danish financial ministry to say about there was a Danish financial, not the foreign ministry, but the financial ministry who bought it, didn't work, so they went and asked for their money back, hit the press, and we didn't do so well after that. And 9/11 happened, 9/11, 2001. I was sitting in my office in Copenhagen on Nansensgade, 19 Nansensgade, and the center of the city overlooking the lakes. And I was thinking to myself, oh, well, we got a problem here. Folks, not immediate, but small plane, they thought, had hit one tower and the other. And then it was obvious. These were not small planes. These were airliners. My friend Ricky was on the 101st floor with Aon Insurance fire marshal of his floor. He evacuated before the second tower was hit, the first tower to fall. When it did hit, Ricky had made it to the 78th floor, which is the last place he was ever seen. Ricky had been a drummer in the Fife and Drum Corps. And my partner in advanced math with Mrs. Tillotson at Lafayette High School, Ricky was kind, considerate, and there are a number of people who credit him with saving their lives for his rapid action and telling people, get downstairs. Don't hesitate. Pack up your stuff. Get out of here. I can't leave until you all leave, so I want to leave." And he was with a party on the 78th floor waiting for the express elevators. And that was that. I didn't know that at the time. I found out later when I was in Williamsburg and my friend Mike at the top of the stairs in what used to be Casey's and was then, I guess, the college bookstore, said, "Hail." And his arms akimbo. And I was like, "Who is this?" And then I looked and I was like, "Oh, God, it's Mike." Mike and I were so tight back in the day. Like Ricky, we were all brothers, right? And he told me about Ricky, and I was shocked. And I thought about that a lot. And we keep his spirit alive. Ricky wrote as part of his passing for ranks, a drum open beating called Adjutant Drummer. We play that whenever we march. Whenever we march with our fallen. We are not military. We were raised on a military model. I was a sergeant. Ricky was sergeant major by the time he graduated a year after me. He had married, had kids, on his way up, and they on insurance, and he was snuffed out by an act of exceptional resentment, just resentful as hell. That's what it was. That's what happens. You're at Florida and Georgia Avenues. Where do I want to go from here? It's a good question. I'll loop up here, cut over on B, back home on the other edge here. That's Howard University Hospital across the way. And we were walking, keep on walking. As far and as fast as we can. Now, 911. So I'm in Copenhagen, my office. I'm seeing all this stuff happening, and the Pentagon gets hit. I'm like, what is going on? News media outlets all go dark. We should make them dark again. And everybody starts talking on like ICQ. Do you all remember ICQ? It was actually an app that lived on your desktop where you could messaging app. It was over internet protocols, I'm sure, but it wasn't web-based quite the same way. I don't see that still around because I could use that to raise people all over the globe. And everybody was talking over whatever means were still up. And ICQ stayed up. I don't know. I was aghast, right? So there, I had plans to go out with my friend Bodel. I've been surfing around and dating DK and connected with the webmaster of the International Council for the Exploration of the Seas. And Bodel and I have seen a number of things together. And then when that happened, she says, I don't want to go out. I want to just stay in and watch the news. And I was like, gee, okay, I understand. I was kind of hoping not to be alone tonight. And she said, oh, do you want to come over? I'd never been to her place before, and so that was nice of her. I got a bottle of wine and some flowers. I don't drink, but the idea was you don't show up empty-handed when a European invites you into their home the first time. So that's what happened, right? I ended up going to go over by the 9:30 club to see what's happening. Not to be careful here. As a child somewhere nearby. Anyway, what do I want to say about that? We were supposed to see Small Time Crooks at Dama that night. We would see it later. It's not a great film. Woody Allen, with a bunch of other people trying to stage a robbery, Small Time Crooks, set in Manhattan. Typical, but not a really brilliant film, just a fun little, I guess, project for him to work and see if he could make it work. Anyway, his Sweet and Low Down, or Dirt and Low, as I saw it, was much better with Sean Penn. I was just hearing a good Sean Penn story the other day. Let's go on. It's that child. I can hear it. Oh, hi. Anyway, Landmark Theaters. Is it still open? Or is it closed? It's closed now. Open doors. Oh, I guess the movies theater's still working. I'm gonna come down here sometime. I'll be parking. I don't see parking garages. Can be. There probably are some. I just don't know where they are. It's 9:30 Club. Second 9:30 Club. First one is down, I think on F Street. I'm not sure. Anyhow, what I want to say about this. Still on 9/11, still hanging with Bodil at her place, watching the reruns of what happened on 9/11. Trying to figure it out. She texted me that night that there had been a number of, July 25th, Femi Kushi, that should be good. Positive force with Madame Gandhi. I don't know what all, and nothing really that's jumping out at me strongly. Anyhow, talking to Bodil, being with her, she texted me about, a false notification that, airstrikes had gone in and explosions were being reported in Afghanistan. So we sort of knew what was going on. When I went over to her place, I rode my bike everywhere because that's all the transportation I really had besides my feet. And I went by the De Hammersfall Vi, where the U.S. Embassy was bedecked by flowers. The Queen held vigil with the expats that night. We had a different world that moment. Media blacked out because of overload, people talking to each other one-on-one. We are at that world now. But voluntarily, we can black out the mainstream media, talk to each other here on Substack. That's my point, if there's a point there be. It looks like we've got 11 of us total have looked in. So anyway, I'm lonely. I'm keeping company with a number of people, one of whom I'm still very much in touch with. We love each other very deeply. And that's all the fellowship I really need. So that person also, has given the fellowship a miss while practicing principles in all her affairs. And she is a bright spot on this planet. Not Bodil, Tina. And we go on from there. The following New Year's Eve, 2001 to 2002, the world's been transformed. I fly back from the United States to get back for the New Year's festivities because they're so amazing. I catch a cold on the flight, so I'm not feeling real well. I end up sleeping, or at least being in my little flat for all the fireworks that go off everywhere when you're in Copenhagen. Anyway, moving on. Next thing I know, I'm there with the cold. Tina attends with a friend at our, celebratory New Year's lunch, I think they call it, or something. It's this big blowout thing we did for New Year's Eve at the Mountain Skeleton headquarters of Web 500. I was brilliant. Tina was in a silver dress, silver arm-length gloves, go up to the elbow. Just looking like, I don't know. One of the lovely things about Tina and I is I'm more like an uncle to her, and a very pure uncle, in the aspect that I am there to just help the kid, not to try to use her in any way. And that was lovely because everybody thought, of course, I had all the benefit of having an active relationship with a much younger woman, stunning. And I didn't have to care what the kid thought. I didn't have to spread over whether or not she was sleeping with somebody else. I didn't care. Just sleep with whoever she wants to because I'm her friend. Compañero, as Peter Falk would say. We were talking about Wings of Desire earlier. the film. So full circle on that. Well, it's 2001 now. 2002 rolls in. I'm sick. I get better. Then we get to my birthday. I have an opportunity to just have a vacation. Denmark actually allows you to use vacation. I'm preparing in the near future to go off to Chicago, where I will again run into the neuropsychiatrist from 1997 and, have some fun and enjoy each other's company right around the time of her birthday in February 2002. So on February 4th, a few days before, I fly down to Barcelona. And there, my old friend Deborah, I mentioned earlier, her roommate Kim is married to a guy from Barcelona, not Catalan. And she studied art history down there. So she's very conversant in Barcelonan culture and teaches, tutors and such. She's got some great stories that are hers to tell, as she told me when we had lunch. And then we went to her place after she had met me. She had me sit in La Rambla or at Plaza de Catalunya, where I was reading The World Transformed by George W. Bush and Brent Scowcroft. Still have that book somewhere. Anyway, man, the deal was she was going to drive me to Girona. Now, how did I pick Girona as a place to go for my vacation and my birthday? The previous November in 2001, because I networked my ass off, I had been at the Transalpine mini conference held in Gagnano, Italy. And I run into a guy. I'd been picked up at the airport in Milan, or actually at the train station at Milan, because we'd had to fly into Geneva. There was fog in Milan, and there had just been a terrible accident there. SAS plane caught fire, burned. One of my other friends from Dating DK, she lost some of her very close friends. That was Henry. Oh, God, I've got a story to tell there, too. I'm not going to deviate that far. But Gagnano, I met Jan Grat, and he's still a figure in my life in the periphery. And Yang Yang, I think he calls himself now. He's quite a character. Love that guy. He's an acquired taste like me. And a lot of technical writers are, by the way. And that's what I was doing. So, anyhow, where am I going with the story? Where does the story want to go? I'm in Barcelona. It's February 2002. In November, Yang had told me that Girona is one of the best preserved medieval places in the world, and medieval art history is right up Kim's alley. Kim and Jordy put me up. I meet their friend Daniel, still in my life. Daniel Meakin, an artist who had done a beautiful portrait of their iguana. I forget the iguana's name, Raoul, maybe? Anyway, Kim in her car, Jordy's car probably, with Daniel and me, drive down to Girona and we tour the whole city. Then we go down to the Costa Brava. We stop at different places, like a little casino right on the Mediterranean. Classic old guys sitting there playing. I don't know what. I don't know what they're playing. Still, what do we got now? 11 of us have looked in. Thank you. Have any comments? No. Now, American Tactical Civil Defense has joined. Okay. I'm in Girona. We leave Girona. We go to these other places. Oh, I'm on the Costa Brava, going to a casino. Beautiful, highly authentic. I touched the Mediterranean for the first time. This is significant to me. to be able to touch and be able to impact things. We're all interwoven. It's all interconnected. Look at that purple on that house. 12th and W Street, Northwest. Probably will head south at some point to get over towards my neighborhood. But yeah, look at the wow. The facades of those houses. So colorful. So lovely. I think Florida might be up here. I can sort of wind my way down when I intersect with Florida. All right. Yeah, let's just do this. Let's see what happens if I go up here and then down. I'll just stay on Florida and get home. Because Florida crosses right in front of S Street, in front of my house. I did spray myself with insect repellent, but I tell you what, I don't think it's working. Okay, next. I'm in Tulsa tomorrow. They dropped me off. I'm going to spend my 39th birthday at Tulsa tomorrow. It's Groundhog's Day. I end up talking to my father on the phone. I'm sitting out there in the, I call it Bar Menuda, something like that. Anyway, this beautiful beach, very stony. Still has some stones from there. My sister tried to throw, or my brother-in-law, threw them down in front of the house. And my mother and father were out of there. I picked them up. I don't know where they are now, but I'll find them. They're somewhere in my possession. Okay. Tulsa tomorrow is just wonderful. I have it all to myself because it's February and there's nobody there. Restaurants aren't even open in many cases, but the ones that are, I have to myself. They make me wonderful meals. I read. Oh, gosh. I don't know. John Updike. I was reading a John Updike. I want to say it was Rabbit something or other. Rabbit Redux. Something. I don't know what it was, but I was reading him, soaking it up. I'd been to the Moreau Foundation and to the Picasso Museum in Barcelona. I had connected to people, hit and run. I'd had just a blast. My ancestors at the cathedral, the old one, the medieval cathedral, visited them, the Berengers. You know, I lived my life. And I was about to turn 39. I did turn 39 there at Girona alone. I was in conversation with people, Tina, among others. And I got back out of there, man. I got back to the company and somebody had raided our server closet, stolen stuff. We had backups. We had a guy he really didn't want to trifle with. He knew all the dark areas of the internet. And he's still out there too. Most of these guys were younger than me that I was working with, by the way. I was the old guy at 39, 37 when I started up with them, I guess, in October 2000, because I started working with them before I got over there in December 1st, 2000. I'd gone over and done my interviews, got the job in September of 2000, staying with Maria, meeting people, including Dieter, who just celebrated her birthday. And I thought Dieter was absurdly old then. I have no idea how old he is now. I had gone immediately to the fellowship, of course, and I'd had contact with Dieter electronically. He offered to meet me at the airport, even kind man. And I didn't need that. The owner of my company met me, and eventually I connected to my then girlfriend. But wow, what a piece of work that one was. And God bless her. She did the right things. Everything happens for me, remember. Well, Dieter, when I got there in September 2000, flashing back to that moment, I went to this scale of 107. I think that's right. Well, English basement level club for our 12-step meetings. And I walk in and I see a pipe. And I just instinctively know that's Dieter. That's Dieter's pipe. Dieter Christensen. I think he's in Thailand now. He was married to a Thai woman. He loved Thai culture. I think he worked as a custodian. I don't know. But they are miracle workers. I met Patrick there. Oh, God, I can see Patrick's face now. Patrick was an activist, an Irish activist. Definitely pro-Palestinian. Oh, my gosh, what a great man. McManus. Patrick McManus. And then there were others. So many others that I met. First, there in the English speaking meeting, on a scale 107 is probably a Thursday. I'd ridden my bike over there into colds, and I got a cold. And Maria got me some medicine for it and insisted that just riding your bike in a cold, damp weather is not going to give you a cold. I probably caught it on the plane, gestated it, whatever. That certainly happened to me when I had the New Year's Eve thing that happened the 2002 New Year's Eve, 2001 to 2002 evening. Anyhow, there we go. I get asked to lead by John from Liverpool. And John, what a guy. I was very brief. They weren't expecting that. They were expecting me to like talk all the time. But me, I just like throw out the topic, give them a little short and sweet. Listen to them. I eventually asked John if he sponsors, and I used him for a sponsor face to face for quite a while. I remember when we fell out over some money and I paid him back what I owed him. Never spoke to him again. That was April 8th, 2002. I was with Tina. We went over there, dropped off the money I owed John. He thanked me. I thanked him and never spoke to him again. Ignored him effectively. And so it goes, right? That's kind of how I am, how I still operate. And I'm not sure that's brilliant. Maybe I could shake that up. It's debatable. Lifted Essentials. Look at that. I think they shut that down. They've got a licensing thing up at the window. And as I walk, I'm on 14th Street, is it? Head down across on Florida. Take in the passing show a little bit. Oh, what else do I want to say about that? Where the hell was I? And that was interesting, whatever it was. John, Liverpool. April 8th, 2002. Drop off the money with John over by the Castellet, over by the English-speaking Anglican church that was built there, dedicated to the Princess of Wales at the time, Alexandra, Queen Alexandra, consort of Edward VII. And there's Churchill parking right there, too. Tina was deathly afraid of the moat, the water around the Castellet. That's right up against it, where this little church is, this little flint stone church. I mean, literally, their stones are flint. And it chimes, oh my gosh, resonates like a stone can, like hard stone church. Anyway, used to meet in the basement. And I got some books from there still. I go on and on, but drop off the money. And then Tina and I go over to the Forum, which is like a concert hall, right? And we arrive. Hallelujah, I'm ready to go. Bob Dylan hitting the stage with his band that you can see him masked and anonymous as well. And he launches into that, and forget the whole set list. Summer Days is in there, I'm sure. And Tina and I have a great time. I put her on the train back to her place in Brøndbystrand. And it's like the most fun thing to see all these Danish people. The lights go up over the crowd in the Forum. It's so blonde. And one of the weird things they do there, they clap in unison. You try to break the unison, it all falls down into this chunk, chunk, chunk. Chilling. You got to watch my Skip Healy interview where he talks about the Swiss and how the fifes were used as fair warning that the Swiss were coming and that if you didn't disappear, you would never survive. Anyway, I did not know that. I always saw the Swiss as like, they make cuckoo clocks. It's nice. Not always. Anyway, I have a rich experience, right? So I want to share it with you. So I am now at the Bob Dylan show in 2002. And one thing leads to another. And in the summer of 2002, well, in the spring, and I had tippled a little in December 2001, December 7th, 2001. And I sensed I wasn't being any too smart, and I stopped that nonsense, but I didn't tell anybody it happened. I just went on as though that never happened. But in May, I flew off first to the Netherlands. No, that was not May. That was probably April or March. The Netherlands for the sort of summit of the European chapters of the Society for Technical Communication. And I, by that time, had founded the Nordic chapter for all tech writers who wanted to be involved in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland. And in Finland, I've had ancestors who ruled over all of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, but not Finland. So I did that. Became the head of the chapter for the Society for Technical Communication for Scandinavia, the Nordic chapter, I called it. And it was official. It existed for a minute or two. Look it up on the Wayback Machine. I don't know. It was fun, and I was down to the Transalpine thing again. In Vienna, right after that, met a guy, some American expat there. And then we went to the international conference in Nashville. My company footed the bill, which was lovely. Okay. So we're now in May 2002, finishing up the online health project with my writer, fielding it. It's good. We submit it to be in the European Technical Publication Competition. And while I'm over there, nobody asked me to, nobody suggested that I do this, but I decided I wanted to join in on first some sort of morning glories. It's luscious purple. Oh my God. Just take that purple eye socket for a minute. Look at that. Oh God, it's beautiful. Anyway, just in that moment, I decided I'm going to have some alcohol. Again, I had not had any since December. I hadn't told anybody about it. I hadn't really blown up. I fell off my bike once, which I never did. Well, no, yes, I did. I did that sober too. But, we go out at one time. We did this thing there, which we call the rough drafts. Pickup band, people with musical talent. I got fifes and tin whistles. I have a great time jamming away on the weight and whatever. And I'm going to do the same thing in Dallas the next year in 2003. But 2002, Nashville, we're staying in the Gaylord Hotel. It's huge. And my roommate is a guy I met in Vienna, American expat, mentioned earlier. Nathan. Nathan who? Horowitz? Probably. Anyway, both carrying volumes, different volumes, but volumes of the poetry of Ernst Jandl for light reading. Now, in 2002, no, in 1995, the summer, I'd been in a compact seminar from Sion, Switzerland, from the University of Augsburg, with Dr. Klaus Post, who was jointly Augsburg and University of Pittsburgh connections in Germanistic. And we studied with a woman who had done her doctoral work on Ernst Jandl and his poetry, the Konkrete Poesie. And it was great, We just did seminars all morning, lunch, and seminars all afternoon. It was 8 hours a day of seminars for a week. And Sion, 95, I've gone back from 2002 where I was. And wow, we had so much fun. And Karsten Ahrens and myself and Wiebke and Georg. I don't know. The guy driver, Thomas, was the driver of our diesel-powered Passat, and we had to push the damn thing around the corners on the switchbacks going up to the wood house above the house where we had our seminars and where we lived, had our being. And we did all kinds of fun things. We set one of his poems to music. Zertretene Man Blues. Trampled Man Blues. Can you imagine a man trampled. I don't remember the details, but I can sort of hear it. It's in German, so I won't belabor it. But diesmal, ich heb den Hand. Ja doch, zu spät. Zu spät. Coming in zu spät. Coming in zu spät. That's Tom Waits. I'll get back to that too, because I need to find my way back to Betty Nansen's theater and an evening with Bodil at Wojciech. Robert Wilson production, staging, everything, and Tom Waits libretto. Well, I'm in 1995. It's still in Switzerland. Don't need to belabor that one either. I'm not sure exactly why I flashed back there, but I was in 2002 when I was going to these conferences in Vienna, Ernst Jandl, and then I'm in Nashville. And Nathan and I both, rooming together, have brought Ernst Jandl for light reading. What are the chances? I mean, 100%, obviously, but that's pretty weird. We didn't plan it. Jennifer's there. She had caught my eye at Gargnano, and we end up on a panel together with Bogo. He was handing out pens saying, I know Bogo. Later, buttons come up that say, I don't know Bogo. But Bogo Vadovic of Slovenia had us on a panel to talk about being expats and cultural sensitivity, and I don't know what all. I think to look Bogo up because what a character, right? I think he probably knew Slavoj. What is that guy's name? It's not coming back to me. Philosopher from Slovenia, you know who I'm talking about, probably modern. Anyhow, Zizek. Zizek is your symptom. I'm a blonde dog group that said that. Okay. What is it? I'm in Vienna. Now I'm going back to Vienna in 2002 because at the conference that we were at, it was around Easter time, so it was an Easter market. I went to see an exhibit on Kurt Schwitters, and I have that still. And I went different places. It's hanging out a little long. Vienna, 2002. I'm having to split that from Milan in 2001, where with Whitney Quisenberry, I ended up seeing the Last Supper. It's that guy's problem. Huh, it's weird. Anyhow, let's go back. Let's go on back. Yeah. Well, before I left Vienna, I was just wandering around. And I stumbled into a lecture by Jean Baudrillard. He's dead now, but wow, what a gift that was! I was sitting behind this girl. I was attending it also. I couldn't get the focus off of her. I never talked to her. Walked away, but she made quite an impression. I can still see the back of her head in my mind's eye. Mine in 2002, yeah. So I'll bring it back to Nashville, May, at the Bourbon Street Blues Bar, watching Carrie Bell play the harp. Don't ever get old, y'all. And Baby Jake is on guitar. It held forth in the Zoo bar up here near the zoo in Washington, D.C. Wonder what Baby Jake's up to these days. My friend Vince knows him. Gonna network all these ideas together. I guess I can go in front of this. And no driver, and they're ready. Hughes Street Fire Department, engine company number 9. All right, Denali here. Here we go. All kinds of modes of being, all kinds of services people can do. So I'm in Nashville. Next night, there's a different band. I forget the name of it. Carrie Bell had been great. I'd had a couple of Budweisers that show. I remember I'd given my jacket to a woman named Paula from somewhere up Massachusetts. And we were traveling around. It's a real big international contingency. There was Tijana from Slovenia, an ex-ballerina, who had been president of Transalpine when I was president of Nordic. And we spent time together in Vienna, hashing out possible plans, partying together. It's great. Loved it. I'm still in touch with a lot of these people sort of peripherally. I haven't really talked to any of them in a long time, except talked maybe out into the interwebs where they can read me. Anyhow, what I want to say about that, beyond that, when I got back to the plane, my parents came visiting me while I was out there. It was lovely of them. I drove out in their new Buick Regal turbocharged vehicle. And I think they had a really good time. We went to the Hermitage. Hermitage, is that what it's called? What's that place called? Home of Andrew Jackson. And my father reminisced about driving out there. You have water heaters back and forth, Nashville from Orange, where Gill Electric Company was run by his father. It's part of the Harold B. Gill Foundation. There's an article about the Gill Electric Company. Check it out. Now, where am I going? So dad and mom come. They stay with me. I sensed I wasn't being any too smart, but on the plane back to Copenhagen, the idea of duty free gets in my head. Can't miss that. But they didn't have that I like, but they did at the airport. And I dropped those off down the drain. The hooks were in the summer of 2002. I couldn't draw 3 days sober, but I had friends who saw me through the dark hours, left foot in front of right foot. I had experiences. I often felt futile. I often felt lonely. I also often felt broken. I often felt that as I sat and read the literature of the original 12-step fellowship, this doesn't work. I had gone there with the idea that God would do for me what I couldn't do for myself. My only true healthy dependence was on God. But God's deep down within us. It's not out there. It's within us. It's our breath. Thou art that. Sanskrit, pat, fam, asi, I think. Anyhow, look it up. Joseph Campbell's Thou Art That, one of the first publications out of his comparative religious studies collections that was sent out after he died by the Joseph Campbell Foundation, which preserves and protects his legacy, as I'm preserving and protecting my own father's legacy and the legacy of all Harold B. Gills, all three of us, to the best of my ability. So it goes. Best of my ability, probably a little lackluster. But that's my judgment on myself. And I'm not sure how others would judge, but we're doing what we can with what we have. So I come back from Nashville this summer of 2002. Doesn't go well, but I get sober on the plane back. I say to myself, we get laid off, first off. So before I get to the plane on the way back, I get laid off and I can go 2, 3, 4 days without a drink, no problem. So third one really gets me. I start having cramping up through the body, physical symptoms of withdrawal. And it's terrible, right? It's one of the most awful feelings you can have. You think you're going to die. Panic attack, right? I didn't know that. I didn't know what caused it. But I went to my doctor when I got back and I found out what caused it. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's see if I can get back there after talking a little bit more about what happened in September. I guess it was July, August, September, and then October. So it must have been at the end of July. I was doing what I do, going past my financial manager's office. I look and see an org chart without me on it. That's my first indication that I'm not going to be there much longer. And I do get that call. Eventually, I was able to give my boss a heads up, and he was out of there before I even hit this pavement. He floated his resume, went to Microsoft Denmark as an evangelist. And he was pissed, right? Because they were actually interviewing to augment my team. A guy named Klaus. What is Klaus? I don't remember Klaus's last name. Dang it. Left, right, left. Okay, let's go this side. All right. We're going to go a long walk. Yeah. Heck of a march. Good for me. Needed it. Where am I? As far as power goes, I've got 33%. I can continue talking. I often do. 16. Dave Feister, Lee Penman joined. Lovely. Good to have you. Thanks for joining. Now serving sex, life, healing, sunlight, nature, art, serenity, spirit, world pride. It's her diner. There's the cake room. Oh my gosh, we're spoiled for choice. Jack Rose Dining Saloon. Largest collection of whiskey in DC and probably America. That's something else, man. Sheer poison. But I digress. I'm laid off by my company, with whom I had a 3-year contract, but that's not worth what paper was printed on, apparently. They had gotten me a work visa for that period, but now I was done. Give me 3 months severance. Figure it out. I continue working for 2 of those months and take October further off. So it's August, September, October. I mentioned Jennifer, who had been at the Nashville conference, and I met in Gagnano. I don't think she made Vienna. Not sure. We've stayed in touch as professionals, colleagues. She was at Siemens in Milan. When she heard I was going to be available, I'd hit her up first when I thought I might lose the gig, and I could feel it coming. And she told me the warning signs. She'd been in that boat before. And, wow, walking makes me short of breath. So when I first met Jennifer, made eye contact, it was like, pow, something. And I decided, well, I'm going to leave that one alone. That was powerful energy. I knew she was married, settled. But when she heard I was available, she created a position with me in mind. I applied for some others. I went over to Skua, Denmark, near where Bang & Olufsen's plant is, and interviewed with an instrument maker. I wasn't there. Fit. But they got me over to Skua and back. That was fun. I remember reading Goldfinger on the way. Ian Fleming's. I picked that up probably as a used book over by the English-speaking church, the Anglican church. I was talking about earlier about Churchill Park, and what else to say about that? Oh, gosh. It was complicated, right? So I needed a job. I thought, well, Siemens will fly me down to Milan, check it out, see if it works. So sometime probably in September before I left, I did fly down. I did get the gig, got the offer, but I didn't take it. Took another offer back in the States. But that weekend in Milan, lovely. Went all over the place. Always visit St. Ambrose when I was there. Jay Venner and I were talking about that a little bit. She says, Milan is where you go for parties. Because all the people who are people, so their parties in Milan. Milano, St. Ambrose, St. Augustine. I think we got there by talking about Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, St. Augustine's Confessions. He was a pagan. He converted. My friend I talked to yesterday had been an atheist and converted. And she realized these guys were just assholes. I've got to pull up the Mark Maron thing for you about atheists. Anyhow, yeah. I tried to ape that one. I don't know. I'm trying. Very trying, my wife tells me. But she sticks by me anyway. Oh, man. So I did get, but I didn't go to Milan, Italy to work for Siemens. I went to DigitalNet, a Getronics company, later sucked up into some other company. And, I forget who they are now. Doesn't matter. Not important. What was important was I was back in the game. And I was living with my folks for that first year back. On the plane back, I said, if I'm ever going to be sober, it's going to be you doing it, not me. And I wasn't talking to anybody at the time. Made a great story. I hung on to that sobriety date till 2017. Not that I relapsed in 2017, but that's when I confessed what my actual sobriety date was and is September 11th, 2015. So this is not an airport. You do not need to announce your departure. But I had departed from Milan in 2001 in September to fly back to Copenhagen, to fly back to the States, have that little epiphany. It lasted about a year and a half of continuous sobriety then in Williamsburg and then Northern Virginia, DCAA. There's my crow. I started out with crows at the beginning of this walk. If any of you were with us then and are still with us now, what else do I want to say about that? Gosh. So I'm back. Milan flight out to Denmark in September was delayed. I got a certificate. Good for a year. I used it. And I spent September 11th, 2003 up on the Salzburg. My friend Deborah from Pittsburgh, who had originally saved me from dying from pneumonia in 1996. But here it was, 2003. I'd flown over to stay with her and her musicologist husband named Armin Brenzing, now the director of the Mozarteum in Salzburg. And Deborah is there giving tours of the Mozart Geburtshaus. Very proud of her work. And haven't been in touch in a while, really, directly. I know she's out there in the world. I know I'm out here in the world, but so I fly back in 2003 after working at the Yorktown Naval Weapons Station for a while for Lamros Tsirafos, ex-Navy SEAL, got his PhD in cybernetics in his spare time, go kickboxing at lunchtime. I mean, this guy was amazing. Looked like a squashed down version of Party Cartel. Played a mean accordion at the Christmas party at Naval Weapons Station, Yorktown. Anyhow, that's around about Christmas 2003. We did that. And then, but 2003 in September, right ahead of Hurricane Isabel. Do you remember Isabel? Hit Williamsburg dead on. I was back for that. But on 9, maybe? Not sure. I go and I connect to Deb. And we go over on the day Johnny Cash died, because we got to the train station in Augsburg. Donna, who I talked about earlier, who used to host the salons, well, by this time she's married to Toby and living in Augsburg, Germany. She'll eventually move to Kissing, so will Deb. Kissing. It's a very cute name for a town. Anyhow, between Augsburg and Munich, give you an idea. So Donna meets us at the train station. When we make our trip up there to tour around in Augsburg, we're actually in the Perlachthorn of the day. Bells go off. There's photographs of them holding their ears. There's so many good photographs from that period. But I get there at the train station. Donna comes and gets Deb and me off. But it's one of those double-decker trains. It's kind of nice to travel in. And she says, Johnny Cash died. So I know that's the day Johnny Cash died. That Donna, Deb, and I tour around Augsburg. Lovely. And then that night, we have reservations at their post. Use their post. Could be D post. Their post, D post, who cares? Do I have enough time to tell this story? God. I think I'll head back home. I was going to go across the bridge. I don't think so. I think we're going to go down to a more populated area. More stuff to see, more stuff to document on the passing show. But I'm in my narration in Augsburg, a September evening. I'll figure out exactly which one later. And it goes. Their post dinner. We go out to a hookah bar after that. I think Deb ends up making herself sick. But Tillman came over from Freiburg. And Gabi and Christian come over from wherever they were. They were in Augsburg at the time. And we hang. We're all on our own career paths, early out from University of Pittsburgh. We'd all been together in the 90s. And we're back together in 2003. There's some lovely photographs of that team doing what they do, holding on to each other. I'm not drinking. They are. I don't care. We're having a great time. Okay, we stay over with Donna. Toby and Donna take us to a store, like one of those big, stores like you have in America, basically, but the German version. Forget what they were after. It was kind of like home improvement place or something. I forget. And then Deb and I take the train back over to Munich. I catch a night train. I hope I can get a story in here. 2003, I catch a night train. I think it's like, I want to say it's the 13th of September. And I get down to, they lock us in the berths, they take our passports, and we wake up in Vienna. I don't know. Venice. Venice starts with a V. And I take in the Venice Biennale, 2003. See, I've been working in the Carnegie Museum of Art from 1997 to 2000. So it's near and dear to my heart. All this modern art. We have the Carnegie International, 1999 to 2000. I was involved in that. The aluminum exhibit. There's some great stuff anyway. Love the Carnegie. Love it. It's still try to support it. And what do I want to say about that? Well, one thing leads to another. We are at the Biennale. I tour all over the place. And see a Murakami exhibit, a super flat monogram. I remember Murakami being lying there in the foyer, not the foyer, the paint booth of our lab in conservation when they're setting up for the 99-2000 Carnegie International. And I almost stepped on him. Almost stepped on his head. He had rolled out a straw mat and was having a nap. I was thinking, wow, I almost killed that guy. And nobody knows that. If I had killed him, this exhibit, a super flat monogram, wouldn't be happening. I don't know. It's tangled web we weave. During that time, I met Susan Say, SZE. She pissed off my boss so badly. He had just spent $2 million rehabbing and sealing, making the HVAC system and improving the environmental conditions in the bridge gallery from the old to the new building at Carnegie. And she cut holes in it to weave her gossamer sculpture of toothpicks and Q-tips and glued little pills and tchotchkes you'd find in a junk drawer into this huge rambling sculpture. It had living plants and little electric fans, and it compromised the environmental work that had been done. Well, it was hot. Oh my gosh. Love that guy. Hope he's doing well. Hell of a photographer too. Man, this guy was an artist in addition to being the conservator. He had studied in Florence, and he's a great guy. Just loved him so much, and still do. Maybe we were not best boss employee that ever walked the earth, but thank God for him, and thank God for everything. The God within. I like to think of it. The breath. Thou art that. Thank me for everything that I am perceiving. Thank me for breathing and continuing to keep my breath in the body by exercising this morning and exercising my voice so y'all can hear me. So we got a breath. Sadly, they just went bankrupt. I wonder who just went bankrupt. I don't know. I don't even know who I was talking about that went bankrupt. I'll find out, I guess. So what's next? Where do we go with this? How far can we go with this? I am in 2003. I'm the Venice Biennale. I'm traveling around. I get on the train. Night train back. During the time I was there, I read The Alchemist and The Da Vinci Code. And I remember that pretty vividly. And as I'm going back, wake up in the morning, getting my passport back, and we're getting ready to disembark in Munich, I strike up a conversation with a young lady who's in the adjacent berth. in my sleeping car. And there's 6 of us in there, basically in these little entombments. If you've got claustrophobia, do not take the night train in Europe. But I had this Euro pass, so I was going to use it. And there is this girl from Trieste. And we start talking to Edgar Allan Poe. And she finds out I'm American Virginian. That was so much fun. That was just such a joy. And I have a picture somewhere of her walking away at the Munich airport. That's as close as we ever came to each other. I don't remember if she gave me her name. I don't remember hardly anything, right? It's all just a muddle, a mush, a kind of soup, if you will, that I swim in. Soup of memory. Between gel and sol, our brains are, right? Sol is all liquid and squishy. Gel's more rigid and inflexible, but we can still just quantum leap between the two positions. We're flexible. We keep on in spite of ourselves. So who went bankrupt? No, I belonged to the Washington, D.C. chapter of STC for 18 years. Well, thank you, American Tactical Civil Defense. They went bankrupt, did they? Well, it's not too surprising. I did all I could to, we were excited about it. You remember Kit by any chance? I'm sure if you're Americans, you probably know Carolyn was good enough to send fruit to my wife when she was recovering from a stroke in 2009. I touched base with them a few times, but I always felt, American tech writing is not viewed like tech authoring in Europe. That's the bottom line. Oh, man. That was a good career, though. I went to Dallas in 2003 as well. That was before the return to Europe trip, but I went to Dallas to the STC conference and was there. And that may be where Jennifer and I have been on a panel with Bogo Bodovich. And wow, it was just a great world. We had the rough drafts playing that. We went out to the Bone in Deep Ellum outside of Dallas, played Sweet Home Alabama, no, Sweet Home Chicago. This guy from the Netherlands, and he was a great blues singer, right? I played tin whistles in the rough drafts and fife. I did not contribute my vocals. Baltimore, I was there too. 2004, did some presentations. I'm in the proceedings. But you know what? My company would not support me going to the next one, wherever it was. Maybe it's Seattle, I forget. I haven't had one at National Harbor not too long back. I was thinking of going, didn't. What does I want to say about that? California 19th. I'm almost at my friend Mike's place. He's in this building down here. Michael Mooney, Connecticut. He's been living here 30 years in what used to be the Chinese embassy. Small world. Small world. So what else have I got to say about this? But hey, American Tactical Civil Defense. We ought to connect in person if you were still in Washington, D.C., or if you're ever in the area. Nice little card. Eesh. Crucifixion. What's this for? It's in some of the language. I know that language. Oh, well. This is for sale. A unit within here, maybe 2017 entirely, or maybe it's a basement unit. I don't know. The multiple units. I don't know. I think maybe. Oh, that's the building that used to be the Chinese embassy and where my friend Michael lives. I don't know which is his windows, but I don't care. It's not my business. Good guy. His brother is in the Stony Creek Fife and Drum Corps. Talk about small world. And that's up in Connecticut, of course. Stony Creek was marching and Tartan Day in New York City with the Roland Drones. Mark Riley, friend from the old guard, was on the drums there. He's head of the Washington Tattoo. And I want to get more plugged into them as time goes on. I need to have Mark on the show. I had Skip Healy. I'm going to have Mark Logston probably this next week coming, if he's available. First, Michigan. He started that corps for the bicentennial, got it up and running after observing the Fife and Drum Corps of Colonial Williamsburg in 1974 when I joined. He came into the main room and heard us playing Harem Scarum, Count It Off, 4 beats. And it just lived with him, you know. I think our rendition of the open beating drums and guns also will stick with you. Oh, man. That's the back of the Hinckley Hilton, as we call it, where Reagan was shot when I was a senior in high school, 1981. Hinckley ended up living in my parents' neighborhood, Kings Mill on the James, with his mother after he was released from St. E's. He would come down there on visits as well. My father would see him walking with a kind of an ankle light on, so it's pretty obvious who he was. My father spoke, but he never spoke back. Oh well, life goes on, and we are all woven into each other's lives more tightly than we realize. Oop, there's a Heineken cap. A Heineken is what led to the plague party on February 9th, 1996, that nearly killed me on March 3rd, 1996. Anyway, goes on and on, the whole story, the whole saga. Baltimore. My company wouldn't support me going in 2005, so I ditched that company. Everything happens for me, not to me. I ditched them, and I went off to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and ended up being an enterprise architect. I've been a certified enterprise architect now since 2006. Completed my work at Carnegie Mellon. 2018, got my TOTICAF 9.1 certification. Still kind of interested in the field. Might actually go back to it someday. Not today. I don't feel really positive about it. I think it happened for me that I was cut from the contract I had saved the year earlier. And that's what they said. They gave me a $10,000 bonus to boot, which was not easy to have happen, but it was confirmation of my value. And then Doreen, it happened to me. And Shannon happened to me. And that happened for me. And God bless them both. And I initially felt badly because I was pretty sure that one of my own, who I had rehired after he quit, was behind what happened to me. I don't know. Young bucks, you can't deal with them. Can't trust them. They're apt to get up to anything because they basically don't have well-developed prefrontal cortex. I'm not sure men ever really develop a good executive function. So I'm going to say about this. I'm down to 19% power, but I'm close to home, so I can charge up. I've been taking you all the way from down there, out there, all around, and it's been a blast. Now, what's next? What's next? I continue directing the Harold B. Gill Foundation, LLC. You can find it at hbgfoundationllc.org. And what I want to say about that? Dad's legacy, my grandfather's legacy, my own creative outputs. I'll make it up. It's stewardship. I may be meandering. I may be in the mode of memory. I may not be where my feet are, but I kind of am. If you want to see my feet, I'm wearing these Yes We Vibe shoes that have yin yang symbols on them. Put one foot in front of the other and keep in the game. Do not forget that every cent you spend is a vote in the kind of world you co-create. And this is not an airport. You do not have to announce your departure. And then there's another thing. It is that time is energy too. Time is currency. Spend it wisely with people you love and love everyone. Love is the answer. You know that for sure. Why don't we listen? Think I'm free. Share a little joke for the world somehow. I said it just let go. Shares a little joke with the world. That's a song I think of when my father comes up. I had played KSKQ. I been interviewed on KSKQ. You can find all that on archive.org, the Wayback Machine. We'll bring it up. Just put in KSKU, Hal Gill, and you'll get several examples. I highly recommend looking at Jay Blakesberg's part 1 and part 2. There are interviews as well with Reed Mathis, Lisa Law. Lisa has some very nice things to say. And I have her on Herring's podcast as well. We spent some time together, Lisa and I. I really enjoyed that. So, most recent one is with Jay Venner. We will get together again next week, I think, if all goes well. I'm really pleased to hear that. She's willing. I'm willing. We're going to have other people. Jessica Alpha is going to be our guest on the 27th, a Sunday like this one, 1 week from today. She's actually probably next in the queue at the moment. Although I want to have Jeff Knighton on. I think he's agreed. I haven't set up a date. We do occasionally have Sunny Triple. We might have her on Tuesday before I get Jessica Alpha on. I love working with Sunny. She is just amazing, and she's been on the show a couple times. What else? What else? What else? 16, 14. I can probably slip across here. Is that Paulie? What's Paulie doing there? Driving. 3. Should we say hi to Paul? I don't know. Oh, jerk. Made it. Paul's an investment guy. He's got a company called Torn and Trade, I think. There he goes. In his little Mazda Miata. What a character. He thinks I'm a psycho killer. Now, Sunny is the front woman for Psycho Killers, a Talking Heads tribute band. Saw her the last time I saw the neuropsychiatrist I was mentioning earlier. I used to date in 97. You know, it's a small world, folks. You cannot escape. You're going to, the people that you meet on your way up, you're going to meet them on your way down. Looks like a little work's being done there. Huh. Little trimming flowers. That's nice. And we're back to the bunker. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for joining. Really enjoyed it.